In today's first lesson, you'll hear that love is the true currency of the economy of Jesus. It never runs out. We can't give too much of it away. When we give it away, it is never wasted. We don't need to expect things in return in order to stay stocked up with goodness, grace, and provision for the future. Listen for the living word of God in this reading from the 6th chapter of Luke's Gospel. This is Jesus speaking. I say to you who are listening, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who asks of you, and if anyone takes away from you what is yours, do not ask for it back again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, I repeated myself, even sinners do the same. If you lend those to those who you expect to receive payment, what credit is that to you?
Kitty,
Even sinners
come over here.
lend to sinners to
Kitty, kitty.
receive as much again. Instead, love your enemies. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he himself is kind to the ungrateful and to the wicked. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For every measure you give will be measure that you get back. Blessings to our understanding of this word. How many have anybody ever seen a Serviceberry? I had to look it up. And it's actually indigenous to the East Coast, okay? And it's also known as a shadberry. So it is a real thing. And it has actually medicinal purposes besides being edible. And it's used in medicine for eye drops. And it's also used as a laxative. Okay, like eating too much. Okay. So,
Except that's important for today's reading.
it is important for today's reading. That's why I mentioned it. Okay. In the summer, when the boughs are laden, serviceberries produce an abundance of sugar. Do they hoard that energy for themselves? No, they invite the birds to feast. Come, my relatives, fill your bellies, say the serviceberries. They are not storing their meat in the bellies of their brothers and sisters, the jay, the thrashers, and the robins? Isn't this an economy, a system of distribution of goods and services that meets the needs of the community? The currency of this economic system is energy, which flows through it, and materials which cycle among the producers and the consumers. It's a system of redistribution of wealth, an exchange of goods and services. Each member has an abundance of something which they offer to others. The abundance of berries goes to the birds. For what use are the berries to the tree other than a way to make a relationship with the birds? Eating too many berries has the same effect on birds as it does to people. Fuchsia splats decorate the fence posts. This, of course, is the whole point of the berries, to make themselves so irresistible and plentiful that birds come and feast, as we are when we are the pickers doing the evening pick. Then distribute the seeds far and wide. Feasting has another benefit. passage through the bird gut sanctifies the seeds to stimulate germination. The bird provides services to the serviceberry, who provide them in return. The relationship created by the gifts weave a myriad of relationships between insects and microbes and root systems. The gift is multiplied with every giving until it returns so rich and sweet that the abundance has been hoarded. If June berries acted solely for their own benefit, the forest would be diminished. I lament in my own immersion in this economy that grinds what beautiful and unique into dollars, converts gifts into commodities, and the currency that enables us to purchase things we don't really need while destroying what we do. The serviceberries show us another model, one based upon reciprocity rather than accumulation, where wealth and security come from the quality of our relationships, not from the illusions of self-sufficiency. Without the gifts with bees and birds, the serviceberries would disappear from the planet. Even if they hoarded abundance, perched atop the wealth ladder, they would not save themselves from the fate of extinction. If their partners do not share in that abundance, hoarding wouldn't save us either. All flourishing is mutual.
We looked at today's gospel reading at the Monday morning Bible study 13 days ago, and then I took off for a week of study leave. 48 hours later, there was only one verse that I could remember from the reading. It actually isn't even a whole verse, it's just 3 words. Love your enemies. These words stuck with me, even though there's other really good stuff in the rest of what Jesus has to say in this passage. These words stuck with me because they haunt me. They are the most difficult commandment for me to follow. We separated today's gospel reading from last week's gospel reading mostly to make the number of verses manageable. In truth, today's reading not only immediately follows last week's passage, it's part of one thought. Last week you heard Luke's version of the Beatitudes. One of the things I love about Luke's version of the Beatitudes as opposed to Matthew's is that Luke includes not just the blessed are, but the woe to's. Blessed are you who are poor, you who are hungry, you who are weeping. Blessed are you when people hate you, exclude you, revile you, defame you. But Luke's quote doesn't stop there. But woe to you who are rich, who are full now, who are laughing now. Woe to you when everybody is saying only nice things about you. I admit it. I like the woes. Like Diana Butler Bass, whenever I hear them, I think, go get them, God. Get even with the oppressors and abusers, all those pompous people who look down their noses on the rest of us, who take from us without conscience, who treat us underlings like dirt. I want revenge. I want revenge. And then Jesus says to me, but I say to you who listen, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. In this moment in American history, at least for me, no teaching could be more significant. Politics in the United States is now an overt politics of revenge. A politics that is supported by a majority of white Christians in this country. And a politics that claims to be creating or recreating a Christian America. Yet revenge is utterly and completely contrary to the central vision of Jesus and the kingdom he proclaimed. I'll say it again. Revenge is contrary to the gospel. Not only is the revenge sought by white Christian nationalists for perceived wrongs contrary to the gospel, not only is the revenge sought by President Trump against those who have opposed him or are opposing him contrary to the gospel of Jesus, the revenge fantasies that I have in my heart are contrary to the gospel of Jesus. So what am I supposed to do? In today's reading, Jesus says we're supposed to love our enemies. He says we're supposed to turn the other cheek, that we're supposed to give up the shirt off our back. And in Matthew's gospel, he adds that we're supposed to go the extra mile. Now, before you start muttering obscenities about giving up and giving in, let me assure you this is not what Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying that we need to get smart about the tactics of love. Walter Wink did amazing work on these directives: to turn the other cheek, to give up your shirt, to go the extra mile. I preached about this before, but it is so important. I'm going to share with you again what Walter Wink has found as he's done his exegesis on this. And Mike, I'm going to invite you to come up and join me here for the first of these three directives. Now, the turn the other cheek directive, some things you need to remember is that in ancient Israel, your left hand was used for the bathroom. And so you didn't even do this. You didn't even gesture with it. Everything was done with the right hand. And so if I'm going to slap somebody in the cheek, because I'm the one in power here, Mike's a little bit taller. If I'm the one in power, if I'm the master and this is my slave, if I'm the husband, this is my wife, if I'm the parent, this is my child, and I'm going to put them in their place, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. Because the object is not to hurt them. The object is to put them in their place. So if someone hits you on one cheek, whack, turn the other cheek to them. Well, in order for me to backhand Mike, if he's turning his left cheek to me, I have to hit him like that. And I only punch someone who's equal to me. So in that culture, by turning the other cheek, Mike is saying, you may treat me like dirt, but I'm your equal. Thank you. The second commandment that Jesus talks about, or second directive that Jesus gives, is to give your shirt if someone has sued you for your coat. Now, basically, a peasant would have two pieces of clothing, the undergarment and the outer garment. And there's a provision in Deuteronomy that if you want to take something in security for a loan that you make, and they don't have real property and they don't have personal property, all they've got is the clothes on their back, you can take the outer coat, but you have to give it back each night because that person needs that outer garment for shelter. So if someone is suing you for your cloak, they are suing you because you have nothing else. And Jesus says, give your shirt as well. That's how we translate it in the English. He's really saying, give your underwear as well. Give your inner garment as well, so that you are naked in court. And in that culture, to have reduced someone to nakedness, to look upon someone's nakedness, that actually was a taboo for the person who saw the nakedness. There's a story about this in Genesis 9 about Noah and nakedness. And so an example of how this works, in South Africa, before the fall of apartheid, there was police descended on a squatters camp that they had long wanted to abolish. They gave a few women their 5 minutes to gather their possessions, and then the bulldozers were going to come in and knock down their shacks. The women, apparently sensing the residual puritanical streak in rural Afrikaners, stripped naked before the bulldozers, and the police ran away. Going the extra mile. Luke doesn't quote this line, but it's in Matthew's version. There's only one group that could make you go the first mile: Roman soldiers. The idea was, we're going to limit how oppressive our occupying soldiers are. We'll only let them press someone into service for 1 mile. The story of Simon of Cyrene carrying Jesus' cross is an example of Roman soldiers pressing him into service. Well, you can only make him go a mile. And so we get to the end of the mile, and the soldier says, okay, you can give me my pack back that I made you carry. And the peasant says, oh, no, I'm going an extra mile with you. Who's going to get in trouble? Who's going to be offended by this? Who's going to respond to this provocation? It is creative nonviolence. Imagine the Roman infantryman pleading for the Jew to give back his pack so he doesn't get in trouble. The humor of the scene may escape us, but it could scarcely have been lost on Jesus' hearers at the time. I hear this, and I think this is great techniques for nonviolent action in first century Roman-occupied Israel. Great tactical teaching, Jesus. I love it. And I think these are strong. There are strong possibilities for similar types of action that can be utilized to fight oppression in our day, today. But I'm still thinking in terms of fighting and winning. And if I stop there, I'm missing Jesus' point. Jesus is saying that these techniques are a way to love your enemies. Do good for those who hate you, to bless those who curse you, to pray for those who abuse you. Jesus is not advocating nonviolence merely as a technique for outwitting the enemy, Wink wrote, but as a just means of opposing the enemy in a way that holds open the possibility of the enemies becoming just also. Both sides win. We are summoned to pray for our enemies' transformation, to respond to ill treatment with a love that is not only godly, but is from God. While I was on study leave, I got to hear John Philip Newell at the seminar that I was at, and he told the story about a young Jewish woman in Amsterdam who on March 9th, 1941, started keeping a personal diary. And I'm not talking about Anne Frank. I'm talking about 27-year-old Etty Hillesum. Hillesum found through prayer and meditation that she opened to a deeper level of love within herself. Not the kind of love deluxe, she says, that you revel in deliciously for half an hour, taking pride in some sublime you can feel, but a love that can apply to small, everyday things. But it was not only to small, everyday things that she applied this love that welled up inside her. It was also to the big historic things of her day. The threat goes greater, Hillesum wrote, and terror increases from day to day. Jews were facing more and more restrictions to work and travel under the Nazi regime, and even greater numbers were being rounded up into Jewish ghettos in Amsterdam. Somehow Hillesum managed to pray, God, do not let me dissipate my strength not the least little bit of strength, on useless hatred of these soldiers. Let me save my strength for better things. The only way to truly fight war, she says, is by releasing each day the love that is shackled inside us and giving it a chance to live. She sees the only place and the only time to give love a chance is here and now, always here and now, rather than in some indefinite future. It is all so terribly difficult, she writes, for the way of love calls us to look for the divine not only within ourselves, but within each other, including the so-called enemy, to help dig out God not only from the depths of our own being, but from the depths of every human being. I'm grateful that she too found this difficult to do. Despite the difficulty, Hillesum managed to continue loving when she was put in the concentration camp. I love people so terribly, she prays, because in every human I love something of you, O God. And I seek you everywhere in them and often do find something of you. John Phillips said that Hillesum teaches us we must not respond to the evil today with fear for tomorrow and hatred for those who wrong us. Our only duty is to reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves, more and more peace, and to reflect it toward others. That, Hillesum says, is the only solution. And that, rather than the so-called final solution, is the only way forward for humanity. And so today I find myself praying for grace. God, grant me the grace to love my enemies. I don't need a jar full of grace. A cup full of grace will be enough. Fill my cup with the grace to love my enemies. Amen.